Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. And the Arizona Department of Education's Office of Indian Education administers federal and state programs to meet the education and cultural needs of Native American students in Arizona. In the studio today to tell us more is Elaine Malindo, Office of Indian Education Professional Learning Specialist. Elaine, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to learn more. I know you've been working hard on lots of projects. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you ended up at the Office of Indian Ed.
Okay. That's a big question.
It's a big question.
I can start with where I'm from. So I was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona, so right there at the border of Mexico. I am a first-generation descendant of the Colorado River Indian tribes. My father is enrolled at CRIT. And so we are, from that little side of Arizona along the Colorado River. I think what brings me to the Office of Indian Education is education in general has always been a passion of mine. Prior to this job, I was an early childhood education professional. I was a teacher and then an administrator, and then eventually became a teaching coach and then moved into teaching at an academy for quality first things first. So that is a state operated program. And so I had a friend who worked at ADE that told me that a position at the Office of Indian Education was open for a professional learning specialist, and she thought I would be perfect for it. The thing about it is being a descendant has always been like a soft spot for me, because for descendants, you're this in-between person of, at least for me, not feeling Native enough to be Native, and then also feeling Chicana enough to be Mexican, because that is my other part of my identity. And so thinking about it, I thought that must be a lot of the kids in Arizona's experience. These kids that kind of aren't able to confidently decide which box to check when they're filling out their forms. And so I wanted to represent those kids. And I think since I took the leap and came into this position, I've been able to advocate for that group of students. And so it's been really wonderful for me. And also, prior to me coming into the position, we hadn't really served pre-K teachers. ECE wasn't anything that the Office of Indian Education was doing just yet. And so coming in with that expertise, I was able to kind of introduce that to our team. And we've been able to include some of those early childhood educators.
Okay, so I'm going to back up and ask a couple questions. One, ECE is early childhood education, right? For our listeners that don't know that. Or not familiar with that term. And then what grade did you teach?
Being early childhood education, that is birth to 5 years. And so my group of kids was the 1s and 2s. I loved early childhood really early.
Okay. So when you're doing the professional education that you are now, so you're doing primarily the early childhood ed?
No. So what I do is, as a professional learning specialist, my job is to design all of the professional learning experiences for the Office of Indian Education. So we service pre-K through 12. Okay. And so I've had to kind of learn what kindergarten through 12th grade looks like really quickly. But luckily we have great partnerships within ADE with academic standards and other teams that have helped get me versed on that. I learn every day from the educators that we serve. But what I do is I create the professional learning experiences for those teachers. And so that includes presentations, workshops. Right now, I've gotten very into creating asynchronous learning experiences. So those webinars and those online courses so that teachers can go in and learn on their own time. And I create toolkits. And so I think that's like a lot about what we're going to talk on today.
Okay, cool. All right. So what does, you sort of have answered it, but not completely. So what does Arizona Department of Education's Office of Indian Education do? I know it's big, and I know there's a lot of programs. You've talked a little bit about it, but what else do you all do?
That's a really hard question for us to answer because we do have so many programs, and we're tasked with so much within that statute that you mentioned earlier. That thing is 2 pages long. And so as a team, we've been trying to figure out how we wanted to explain us to the community, like what is our elevator speech. So we actually just came up with a purpose statement, and I wrote it down, and I thought I would just share it really quickly.
That sounds good.
So our purpose is to support high quality education for Native American students by promoting academic achievement, accountability, and understanding of tribal sovereignty and culturally responsive practices. And so that is our one sentence, and you're the first one to hear it.
Oh, okay. And all of our listeners, which we have a lot. All right. So let me ask you this. What all do you do? So the department, I know we're going to be talking about some toolkits. I know that you've done some online STEM programming. I know that you've got a great conference every year that is like amazing and sells out and fills up. But what else? So like if a parent had a question, could they call you? Do you interface with the public or just the teachers and the schools?
Part of that statute is that we support family engagement. And part of that statute as well is to make sure that we report out to the entire state on Native American student data. And so we support everyone, and we always encourage people to call us or email us and ask those questions. We're not going to be the answer to everything, but we have a lot of partners, both internally, ADE, and externally, that we can maybe direct them to if we don't have the answers or the resources for them. So I think we're a great point of contact for just if you don't know where to start, we're able to at least help you get to where you need to be.
Okay, and you mentioned a couple things. So how many do you serve? All schools in Arizona, including like BIE schools, or all schools?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know how to ask that question, but yeah.
Yeah, and well, if we get back to the statute, being that it is a piece of Arizona policy, that means that we're required to serve ADE schools, public and charter schools. But we know, looking at the data, that our Native American students often go back and forth between ADE schools, tribally controlled schools, BIE schools. And so with that said, we service them all. So if a BIE school was to contact us and maybe request a certain, professional development experience, what we might do is think about what that could look like. Are there ADE schools that we might be able to invite in to participate as well? Just to be able to kind of align with our statute. And we also make sure that we provide things like the webinars and the online learning that I'm currently developing right now, because anybody, even parents, can get a free account for what's called ADE Connect for those online learning experiences, and they can come in and register for these online courses. And so in that case, then BIE schools, tribally controlled schools, those staff members are able to take advantage of that.
Okay. So Elaine, are there a lot of Native American students in Arizona? I assume there are. I know that you don't have all your information with you. If the educator and or the families attend a school, could they still qualify for professional learning? Like could the teachers or the instructors or the educators still be able to access your classes and your online classes if they have like even just one Native student in the class?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if I'm asking that correctly.
No, it makes sense. And I'm just kind of surprised that I don't have that number memorized. Of course, it changes all the time. So I don't want to give you an inaccurate number, but it's in the thousands. There are thousands of Native American students in ADE schools, and so that is the data that we have access to, and that's Arizona Department of Ed programs. That is not including all of the students that are in BIE schools, tribally controlled schools, and private schools around the valley, or around the state. So there's Native American students in every program. What we know, at least with ADE schools, is that at least 90% of LEAs, that's local education agencies, have at least one Native American student in their program. And so this number is it's problematic because this is based off of what we know about student information systems. So those are the systems that when a student gets enrolled in a school, their parent has to go in and fill in all those forms, and that's where they check their boxes, whether they're Native American or not, whether they're enrolled in a tribe. And so these student information systems all don't look the same. They're not required to all have the same amount of data. So some SIS is what we call them, might allow a student to, just simply check that they're Native American, but not maybe what tribe they're in. And some SIS programs might allow them to check that, say what tribe they're enrolled in, but maybe not what tribes they're also affiliated with. In the case of myself, as an example, as a descendant, I wouldn't necessarily be able to even check anything after that I identify as Native American because I'm not enrolled in a tribe. So we're losing a lot of information on our kids. And with that said, then we know those numbers are higher. We just, we don't have all the information yet. So I personally like to just say 100% of schools have at least one student in their program. And if that's the case, then we're going to serve them. We're also going to serve them, even if they have to say right now it's 0, knowing that there's going to be a Native American student coming into the program in the future. So I guess that's the long answer of everybody can take advantage of our services.
Okay. All right. Then the next question, is there still the Johnson O'Malley or Indian Ed programs?
Yeah.
Are they still around?
They are. They have, they started in the 1930s, I believe, and they're still growing strong. ADE is one of the rare cases where a state entity is given the responsibility of being the grant manager. Most of the JOM programs kind of lie with the tribes, but ADE is, again, one of those rare cases. And so we aren't currently taking any new grantees at the time right now, but
I know there's a lot of schools that have Johnson O'Malley or Indian Ed. But that being said, is it important for parents when they're coming in and they're registering their child, is it important to give them your documents so that you can take advantage of the Johnson O'Malley or Indian Ed? Is that important as a parent with a child in the school if they have the JOM program to do that? I mean, because otherwise I know a lot of parents are just like, oh, it's more work, it's more paperwork. Do I need to do that? What's the advantage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very important, I think, as a parent to get involved with Johnson O'Malley. One, because Johnson O'Malley is based off of student count. And so the more students that can be identified as a Native American student, the more money that particular grantee is going to get, and the more money they're going to be able to disperse to the students. Oftentimes, schools end up with counts that are too small to really make a big difference. And so then that money doesn't really get taken advantage of fully. So I think that that getting involved with Johnson O'Malley definitely helps the program or the larger population of the kids. And then, of course, Johnson O'Malley can help with things depending on how that particular school's grant is running with their budgets. But it can help with things like tutoring, with clothing support, with assistance with books or school supplies. So I think any money is going to be able to help a family with their education.
And I've seen the schools, they just do the most amazing things with the JOM funds. I mean, just really impactful, and watching the kids' test scores go up and learn a lot more.
Yes.
So super important. All right. So I know one of the things we're going to talk about today is we are now in the spring. Graduation is coming up soon. And I know there's some laws that were passed, I think a few years ago, about regalia, correct, at graduation ceremonies. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So what we're talking about is Arizona Revised Statute 15-348, and it's a dress code policy specifically for tribal regalia at graduation. And so this piece of law says that no school or school board can deny a Native American student the right to wear regalia or carry items of cultural significance at graduation.
Okay. So what does that mean?
So what that means is at a graduation ceremony, a Native American student has the right to wear what they perceive to be their regalia, which is their clothing that has cultural significance to their particular tribal community.
Examples would be?
There are so many examples, but some that I think maybe come to mind are, their moccasins. If their tribe wears moccasins, oftentimes we get these questions about beaded caps because schools have graduation dress policy that says that there's to be nothing on their caps. But in this case, when you're talking about regalia and cultural significance, beading is very culturally significant. Oftentimes, who beaded the cap has significance. How the beading was acquired. Did the community pull together money for this particular youth? And if that's the case, then that is culturally significant. The colors and the patterns that might be in the beadwork might be specific to a family or a clan, so that becomes culturally significant. So absolutely, beaded caps need to be allowed, especially if they also have a feather plume attached, because then eagle feathers specifically have other federal law that protect those. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that we get asked about, but it also includes any type of clothing that they're going to be wearing underneath their gown, their jewelry, their hairstyles. If they're choosing to wear a different type of headpiece, that needs to be allowed. And then there's other things that we don't see too often that are also covered, like prayer staffs, prayer fans, blankets, rattles, anything that they, again, deem as culturally significant to them and their tribe needs to be allowed at graduation ceremony.
Okay, super important. I know that a few years ago, you all came up with the Tribal Regalia Graduation Toolkit. I don't know if it was a year, 2 years, I don't know. Time kind of runs together. Do you still have that, and why was it created?
Yes, we do still have it. Actually, it's only a year old now.
Okay, I don't feel
That's
so
okay.
bad.
We've been talking about it for a really long time, and just kind of putting out the teasers that this thing was going to get launched, but it did get launched in April of last year. And so it was developed because after Arizona Revised Statute 15-348 came to be, I think people knew about it, but they didn't know what to do with it. And then 2 graduation seasons ago, there was a case in New Mexico where a student had her beaded cap with a feather plume attached removed right before she went to walk into ceremony. And because that affected the Navajo Nation Tribal Council wrote a letter to Superintendent Tom Horn citing the statute and asking what was going to be done to make sure that all schools in Arizona understood this law. And so they were asking for a meeting. A meeting couldn't be coordinated, but what happened instead was our Deputy Associate Superintendent, Lynn Anyazi, was directed by the Associate Superintendent, Michelle Udall, to create this toolkit to be able to get it out to all of our Arizona schools. And so then I was tasked with that assignment, a very big one in, I think it was August of 2024. And then it took about 9 months to put it together. Actually, we decided that there needed to be two, one that was for families and students and one that was for school and school boards. And so I got to make two of them at the same time over the course of 9 months. And the goal was really to get it launched right before graduation season of last year. And we did it.
I know you did. We posted it.
Wonderful.
It was a great response. So, all right. So now that we know it's still there, it's a year old, which I thought it was older, and why it was created, what kind of resources are in the toolkit? I know you said there's two different ones, one for the school districts and schools and school board, and then one for the families. What's in it, though? Is it like pretty easy to read? Like, oh, you have these rights and this is what you can do, or what's in it?
There's so many things in it. I think what it opens with, and it's very important, is a letter of support from Superintendent Tom Horn. And that in itself, I think, really gives it weight and validity. So that is in there. There is many examples of regalia and language around the idea that this is not all encompassing, that what is within the toolkits is not a catalog. It is just some examples of what regalia can look like, because what we really want people to understand is that there is no list. There are decision-making trees for parents and students so that they can know what to do once they decide they want to wear regalia, all the way up to what they might do if for some reason the school denies them the right to wear it. There is also fillable PDF letters that they can just type in their information and take right over to the school, notifying them of their desire to wear their tribal regalia. Within the school and school board toolkits, there's some checklists for them to utilize with their teams to be able to look at their procedure and policy and how they're going to inform everyone on their graduation planning team and volunteer team on what that day is going to look like. And so many more things. I could go on forever.
So one thing I didn't realize, so if a child or student and their parent would need to notify the district that they're planning on doing this,
so
you can't just walk in and wear what you want.
That's really I guess let me also say that, this document exists, but every day we find out that we need to provide different education around it. So I always encourage people to make sure to bookmark the OIE website's Tribal Regalia page because in it is the digital version and the PDF version of the toolkits. But what is also there is an FAQ that we update frequently as these questions come in, and as we generate answers, we put them into the FAQ. And so it's always really good to go back there and check that out. And so there was a question that I was developing on our course that we're doing, because I do want to promote that we will have a asynchronous course for this to just kind of walk you through it, and as a teacher get one clock hour if you're looking for PD. But one of the test questions was that very thing. The question is, if a student has not notified the school, I have the right to deny them their their ability to wear tribal regalia? And the answer is no. Even if there is procedure in place and you have forms that you want them to sign and need them to sign and would require most other students in the school to sign, which they're usually called exception forms, even if that student doesn't sign it and they show up in their regalia on that day, you have to allow them to wear it because it is the law and it supersedes your procedure.
Okay. Good answer. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you might even have to fill out a form either.
Yeah. You want to do what is best for everyone involved. So we encourage families to notify the school far in advance so they can work together so it doesn't have to be a volatile situation or a stressful situation. And this is going to ensure that it's smooth for everyone.
Right. And everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. So what are some common misconceptions that schools have about regalia? Is it whatever it is, whether it's the eagle feather or, a beaded cap or a stole or moccasins? Are there misconceptions about that?
Yeah.
Or is it pretty obvious to the schools?
No, I think that schools often have maybe exposure to one or two tribes that might be close to them, like within distance and region. And so they get very used to that particular regalia. And then they think that is regalia. And that's what all regalia should look like. So if they haven't really had any exposure to other tribes' dress or cultural items, they might think that doesn't qualify. We have 22 tribes here in Arizona. What we also know is that ADE schools have students that also represent 200 other tribes. There's 575 tribes here in the United States that are federally recognized, and so they might have been able to see what maybe what the Navajo Nation's regalia looks like because they're close by, or even they're there on their tribal land, but they can't limit it to just that. I think that's probably the biggest misconception. I think the other one is that if they don't fill out the forms, then it's okay to say no.
All right, Elaine. So I know that graduation season is coming up quickly. What should families do now? I mean, where are you going to be releasing the toolkit? How can they find it? How can they find out their rights? Should they share it with the school and the administrators? What is your advice?
They should first start by visiting our website, and that is azed.gov, so azed.gov/OIE. And
Office of Indian Education.
Yeah, so there are so many resources there. They just want to have access to that site in general. But what they're going to be doing is they're going to visit our policy section and go to tribal regalia. That's going to take them to the website and the website for tribal regalia specifically, and they're going to be able to download the PDF, or they can have the digital Canva version that is really user friendly on the phone, knowing that oftentimes that's what families are going to be accessing. That's where the FAQs are going to be, so they can go and get some details on some of these more nuanced things that we've been talking about, and notify their schools now. We've been really encouraging schools on their end to let families know what these procedures are supposed to look like. But from the family side, if they haven't been informed or it hasn't been announced by the school, go do it anyways.
So it's probably better to do it earlier rather than later.
Right.
Don't wait until May 15th if you're graduating
Please
on the 16th.
don't do that.
Okay, so start early.
Yeah.
So go to the website, find the toolkit, download it, read it, and then talk to the school about your plans, right?
Yeah.
Figure out what the plan is for your child and family, and then proceed.
Yeah, it's a very family-friendly document. We intended it to be that way. And if they're running into issues, contact us.
So if the school says, I don't know what you're talking about, or that's not happening, or...
Yeah, we have a whole procedure in place on how to support the school in understanding better. And so I would actually, they can email Indian Education at azed.gov, or they can email me directly. It's elaine.malindo@azed.gov.
Can you spell your name?
Yeah, it's long. ELAINE.MOLLINDO@azed.gov.
Okay. You pretty much answered my closing question, which was, how do they reach you? And you've already answered that. But I really appreciate you coming on today. I've learned a lot. I did not know that you needed to notify schools. I did not know that at all. I didn't know a lot of stuff. So I've learned a lot today, which is always my goal, learn something new every day. And I appreciate you coming on and taking your time and telling us about your program.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy graduation season, everyone.
Coming up next on Native Talk Arizona, host Susan Levy talks with Maria Bartlett, founder and executive director of IndigiGirls. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org. Native Talk Arizona returns after this song. You are listening to Strong Woman by Ray Zaragoza.
Daughter of mine, I will follow to the night. Sister, I feel you in my heart. Hold on tight, be ready for a fight. Leading with love, we can go far. Never forget who you are. Strong woman, brave woman, steady, kind, wise, and driven. Strong woman, brave woman, I wanna be in the world you're building. She's got a way of going against the grain, reading and listening for more, joining the wave of the leaders of today. I wanna follow her star. Never forget who you are. Strong woman, brave woman, steady, kind, wise, and driven. Strong woman, brave woman, I wanna be in the world you're building. I wanna be in the world you're building. Never forget the light inside your chest. It will lead you far.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and IndigiGirls empowers Indigenous women and girls through culture, community, and connection. On the phone today to tell us more is Maria Bartlett. She is the founder and executive director of IndigiGirls. Maria, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to share a little bit more about IndigiGirls.
It looks like such a great program. But before we get started, tell us about yourself, your journey, and how you founded this.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to start with introducing myself in Yaqui. Yos Anchimanyavu Kechimalea Enepo Maria Bartlett Deyak. Hello, my name is Maria Bartlett. As was mentioned, I'm the founder and executive director for IndigiGirls. As far as my background goes, I'm an educator. I taught several years high school English across different states in Hawaii and Oklahoma and Arizona. I also have worked in the higher education space and the nonprofit world. And what connects all of those experiences for me is my passion for equity and really for empowering our youth. And so my work with IndigiGirls really highlights that and is connected to that passion. I founded IndigiGirls at the end of 2023. And at first, it was a social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We still definitely have that social media presence. But now we are moving towards in-person programming and being able to expand our programs overall. So a really exciting time for IndigiGirls.
What a great idea. And it's so important to get girls engaged. All right, maybe should we talk about like what age girls you start with this program and who it's geared for?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great place to start. I would say that our core age group will be 10 to 24. Now, you will see programs outside of that age group. We do want to have some programs that are available to Indigenous girls and women of all ages. Like right now, we have our Indigenous Girls and Women Reading Club and Challenge, and that's available to all ages. But our core demographic will be that 10 to 24. That's where you're going to see our leadership programming, our monthly program box programs, as well as just other programs focused on that area. Our mentorship program will also focus on that age group.
So what are you planning for like the long term? I know you've got some things coming up in the short term. And do you think it's important to start, well, I think it's important for like 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds to start thinking about being leaders and confident and that you can do things and kind of showing them that and what's possible. Is that something that you think is important?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's why, we wanted to start with those 10, 11, 12-year-olds, the young girls who are in middle school. That's that time that we know from research when young girls across the board are starting to question their self-confidence, their identity, their self-esteem. And so that's a really important age for girls to start to get reinforcement and support and encouragement on their leadership and their abilities. Just that reinforcement that they are intelligent and they are creative and they are beautiful and all of those strengths that we know our young girls have. It's a really important and critical time to work with them and be that encouragement for them.
And I think that is so true, especially in the age of social media. Girls look at the social media, they look everywhere and don't feel like they measure up, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right way to say it. And comparing themselves to others. And, social media is so, I don't know what the word is, not true and beautified and, little snippets of things that are, I don't know. And I know I'm not saying the right words, but I think it's so important that you're doing this. All right. So it's open to young women 10 and over. Do you think having good role models and this kind of program where they can come together and learn from each other is a great way to learn? I know you talked about that you'd also done some online. Do you feel like this is a better platform?
Yeah, I think anytime that we can, connect folks in person or even virtually, but in real time, that's the most powerful way to make those connections. And for our young girls, we want them to connect with Indigenous women who are out there doing the things that they dream of, whether it's running a business or being in leadership or working in STEM. We want them to be able to not just see those folks, that's important as well, but to actually connect with them, to have conversations with them, to talk about those steps that they took to get to the place that they are in their journey and how they can get there as well. And we want them to build those relationships with those Indigenous women who are out there doing the work that they dream of, that they want to do, or maybe they haven't even thought of, but seeing a Native woman out there doing it makes them curious and makes them want to learn more. And so it's important for them to see role models, that looks like them. I definitely believe that saying, representation matters. that's so true, especially for our Indigenous girls and young women, where they may not see as many folks that look like them, but we know that there are amazing Indigenous women who are doing work across different fields and in different areas and in our tribal communities that they can connect to. And so that's really part of our mission as well for Indigi Girls, is connecting our young Indigenous girls and young women to those Indigenous women who are professionals and out there leading the way.
What kind of leadership education do you provide, and are you planning on providing? And are you thinking that you're going to do anything with like civic engagement? Is that part of it? Or is it just general leadership education and self-confidence?
I think it's going to be a little bit of all of the things you mentioned, depending on the age. But we do want to meet the Indigenous girls and young women who are in our program where they are. So we'll start with kind of an Indigenous perspective, which is starting with helping the girls and young women identify those strengths and those values that make them strong and give them strength from their culture and from their communities. So identifying those, and then also helping them identify their own individual strengths and values. Where are they leading from? We want these young women and girls to be stepping into leadership positions at their schools, in their communities, with the knowledge of where they come from, who they come from, and who they are. And then, move forward as leaders to identify challenges. That will also be part of our leadership framework, is helping them practice identifying, those challenges in their communities that they see, and then also helping them work towards solutions. It's easy sometimes to identify things that are going wrong. We all see those challenges, but then really helping them, give them a framework of how to create solutions to help their communities.
I really like what you said, very eloquent about, that they start doing leadership in schools, whether it's like, class president or getting involved with different committees at schools, and then volunteering in the community and learning about different programs, problems, and solutions, and kind of giving back, but I think finding your voice and where you fit in and the messaging. And I think it's such a great program. Where do you see Indige Girls going in 5 years?
Yeah, I love this question. This is where I live. I love dreaming about all of these things and then putting in the work to make it happen. But for Indige Girls, I envision us being able to move throughout the state. I want to be able to go to different communities. We're starting here in the Valley with our first kickoff event on March 21st, our Tribal Leaders event. And I would hope to be able to take that to different communities here in Arizona. And then really the end goal, definitely within 5 years, is to be visiting different tribal communities across the nation. And when I created Indige Girls, it was always with the vision of expansive Indigenous identity. So also going, out of the country to our relatives in different countries as well. But definitely want to start in expanding to Arizona and then across the nation and then to different countries as well.
Good for you. So I saw the first program that you've got, and I'm not sure when this will air, but I really thought you had your speakers were great and really, I think, speak to young women. And I am sure that they were honored to be asked, and that it sounds like it's going to be a great program.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. It was really important to us to highlight our tribal leaders. Our first event, again, on March 21st, is going to feature 5 different tribal leaders who are currently council members, some of them holding executive office on their respective councils. And we'll give an opportunity for our participants to meet with them in small groups, to have that close dialogue with them, to share the things that are on their hearts, on their minds with our tribal leaders. And then it gives the tribal leaders an opportunity to share their knowledge, their information, and specifically about being a Native woman in leadership and the challenges they faced, but also how they've overcome those things and their success stories. And again, it's all about just lighting the path for our young women to follow, and to walk alongside them, to know that they're not alone in pursuing leadership if that's where they want to go.
You couldn't have said it any better. That's perfect. So I guess one of the really important things about IndigiGirls is how do you get your funding, or where does your funding come from to make this program go, which is always a challenge.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something that, in the nonprofit sector, Native Health, I'm sure everyone, focuses on. We apply for grants. That's one of our big funding sources. We just got our first grant, actually, not too long ago from the Return to Heart Foundation, which will be funding one of our new programs coming up. But grants is a big way. Also, individual donations will start as well. And any kind of in-kind donations. So those are things like food or services. We're trying to make sure our funding is diverse so that we can make IndigiGirls sustainable as possible and able to last as long as possible.
So, and I'm not sure if I missed this, are you a private nonprofit?
We are working on that.
Okay.
We do not have our official 501c3 quite yet, but that process will be done hopefully in the next couple months.
Okay. And then you said you got your first grant, so congratulations. And that you mentioned that you're going to have an upcoming event that they're going to help fund. And are you able to say what that is?
Yeah, definitely. So that particular grant is going to fund our monthly IndigiGirl boxes. So we're really excited about this program because this will open up opportunities for us to engage with folks outside of Arizona as well as in Arizona before we're able to get there physically. These monthly program boxes will each have a theme, again, all connected to leadership development, and they'll have activities and materials in the box, as well as little fun flag items. And those boxes will also be connected to a video on our social media platforms that will walk the girls and young women through the activity in the box. And also, if you don't get selected for a box that month, you can also follow along with the program on our social media. But we're really excited. Anyone will be able to sign up. 10 through 24 will have boxes for different age groups. So there'll be a middle school box, a high school box, and then an 18-plus box that have different activities, but all, again, connected to leadership development and the monthly theme.
That is cool. That sounds like a lot of work, but that sounds like what a great project.
Yeah, we're excited.
I can't wait to hear how that goes and watch the videos and learn more about the programs you're going to roll out. So since you've been doing this, do you have like a favorite success story so far that you lay awake at, or when you're having coffee, you kind of think, wow, that was really great, that kind of gives you a moment of joy?
Yeah, definitely. A couple come to mind. As I mentioned, IndigiGirls, for the first couple years of our existence, has been primarily a social media effort. And so one of the initiatives that we do on social media that we'll be continuing are our Matriarch Mondays, where we feature a either historical or a current Indigenous woman leader. And so I've had folks come up to me and share about that. They really like those stories and didn't know about some of the women who are either out there doing the work or who have laid the foundation for us as Indigenous women. I really appreciate that when folks share that touches them. But also, I would just say our first event, this tribal leaders panel, to have these 5 tribal leaders who are, holding current council positions in their communities agree to this and be so enthusiastic and excited to work with these young women and really pour into their leadership development is something that feels very heartwarming for me and something I'm very proud of to be a part of for our first IndigiGirls event.
It sounds like it's such an amazing project. The boxes really excite me. I just think what a great idea for people, especially when it's hot and they can't always get to Phoenix. They can still engage
Definitely.
And learn a lot. So I just think that's like amazing.
Thanks.
All right. And finally, Maria, how can our listeners find more information about IndigiGirls and how can they contact you?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to stay up to date with us, please follow us on our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at IndigiGirls. And the contact information is there as well, but you can reach out to me at maria@indigigirls.org. We really welcome anyone who's interested, whether you want to volunteer or you're Indigenous girl and young woman in your life wants to be involved in our programs. We welcome you to get involved. And I assume donations are always welcome and different
different aspects of that, correct?
Yes, definitely. If you are looking to donate, please reach out as well. If you have any grant opportunities that you think we align with, our mission aligns with, we're always open to that and appreciative of those connections as well.
Okay, and if people wanted to get involved in either help or donate or do something with your boxes, is that also an opportunity?
Yes, definitely. So I will put that out on social media as soon as those applications are open for folks to either donate items. We're going to be looking for different like fun items to go in there along with our activity items. So I will make that announcement on social media probably within the next month or so when the grant officially kicks off.
Maria, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today. It's been a pleasure. I think you've got an amazing program and wish you the best of luck and success.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity to share more about Indigi Girls.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.